Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down tonight's Thursday Night Football slate here between the Seahawks and the Cardinals. I'll be talking through how to approach the slate, kind of who we should look to, why, how to get different, to kind of help you guys with your lineup building process for this showdown slate. $500,000 up top to first place, so would love to take that down. Let's get right into the video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to really appreciate all the support. Follow me on X. I will have my post up later today, the one that you guys love, of the Showdown Slate cheat sheet, where I kind of go through the week 2 snap count percent, the snap usage, the routes run, all the good stuff in that post there. So make sure to follow me there. And let's get right into the slate breakdown. So the big question mark for this slate is what's going to happen with the Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet situation. So right now, Zach Charbonnet still officially questionable, even though he did practice Monday, Tuesday through the walkthrough. Like, he should be go for tonight's game. Just waiting for that final confirmation. And as I mentioned, the big question mark is like what's going to happen in terms of ownership, what's going to happen in terms of just like snap count and kind of outcome, right? Like, it's going to be up to you as an individual to kind of go with what your gut feeling is. But right now, as we can see, at least from the DraftKings pricing, it's kind of wild. Like, DraftKings was expecting Zach Charbonnet to possibly be out. Thus why Kenneth Walker's $5,000 more. And in terms of like snap count share, like we'll take a quick look as like why that doesn't really make sense. The huge discrepancy in pricing. For the running back situation, obviously, going back to week 1 real fast, and I think we need to go back before that, because I think a lot of people, especially over the first few weeks, especially on Twitter, fantasy football community, everyone's all over like the Zach Charbonnet train. They're all like kind of shitting on Kenneth Walker, and I think it was a huge overreaction. Like, obviously Kenneth Walker's had some bad games. He's been inefficient at times. Hasn't looked the best, but he's one of those guys who's kind of boomer bust, right? Like, especially when he's been hurt in the past few years in the training camp. I think he had like a foot injury, and they never officially like talked about like kind of easing him into the season. I do think that's what happened. I do think that's kind of the story, as we can see from the snap count share here. 40% in week 1, 58 for Zach Charbonnet. But as you can look at kind of the workload, 10 attempts, 20 yards for Kenneth. He had 3 targets, which is great to see. Obviously, going against San Fran, just a very low scoring there, 17-13 they lost. If we look at Zach Charbonnet, 10.7 fantasy points, you're like, oh, a lot better, doubled up Kenneth Walker, but he got that touchdown. If you take away that touchdown, he had the same fantasy points, 12 attempts, 47 yards, no receiving in the past 2 games. And obviously week 1, he only had 1 fantasy point. He had 15 attempts, but only 10 yards against Pittsburgh, 0 receiving yards. And if you look at Kenneth Walker, 21.8, he obviously has huge big play, explosive play ability, 13 for 105 and a touchdown. Once again, a target. And obviously week 3, Zach Charbonnet did not play. He was hurt. Kenneth Walker, they were up like a quick, I think they almost had 30 points in the first quarter. And by the halftime, it was like 38-3 or 35-3, something like that. And so he didn't play the full game. Only got 16 attempts, 38 yards. Wasn't very efficient, but did get 2 touchdowns. Once again, got a target. So it's like Kenneth Walker is going to be your high upside play, but he comes at a cost, right? Like $5,000 more than Zach Charbonnet. And as we've seen through the first 2 weeks, they're fine with splitting them. But they're getting the kind of the same workload. Like, is that workload in a big playability worth $5,000? Right now, all the ownership is pointing towards no. People feel better going to Zach Charbonnet at a cheaper price tag, similar workload. And if that's the case, if that's going to hold for the rest of the day, I don't mind taking a shot on Kenneth Walker. If I'd play him, I'd rather take a shot on him as a captain play, just because of that huge play ability, huge play upside. And obviously it doesn't feel great at 10.4K, but if no one's going to play him, especially in the captain spot, he's definitely worth a look, definitely worth taking a shot on in the captain spot, trying to capture that big play ability, that big play upside for $5,000 more, which doesn't feel great, but still, you want to get different on a showdown slate. That's the number one way to do it, especially with this huge pricing discrepancy between 2 players in the same role who have been spinning the backfield. Like that's kind of the main thing that sticks out to me. It's like, that's the number one way to get different on the slate tonight, depending on the ownership between the 2. So that's my thoughts there. In terms of the rest of the slate here, we'll kind of take just a quick peek through each team real fast. As I mentioned, the Seahawks offense so far has been feed JSN. Maybe the running back gets in end zone. Maybe someone else does. Like Cooper Kupp had a solid game there week 2. Week 3, nothing really there. Obviously, it's more so they blew out the Saints. So, love JSN. Obviously, very, very safe flex play. Obviously, you can put him in the captain. It just, as we know, he's on Puka Nakul level for his snap share, his snap count, his routes run, his first target read rate, everything. He's in that top right quadrant next to Puka in terms of just the main best wide receiver runs in the game in terms of the workload and usage, and no one's even close to them. So really hard not getting to him here in this spot. I mean, it's really just Sam Darnold's only looking at him, and so I think it's just safe to get to him. As I mentioned with Kenneth Walker, it really comes down to that ownership in terms of just will he be played? If he's very low into the captain spot, I don't mind taking a dart throw on him as a captain play. Sam Darnold, I don't love him. He's kind of more so Jared Goff for me, where it's doesn't have that rushing upside. He's kind of been a game manager so far. Obviously going against kind of some tough defenses here in terms of San Fran and Pittsburgh, and it hasn't really flashed huge upside, especially with these wide receivers, right? Don't really have a tight end room. He's really only been focused on JSN. Cooper Kupp is there. He looked a lot better in week 2 after just a terrible week 1. And week 3 could have been different. Cooper Kupp could have been more involved as well. It just, we didn't get to see that because of the blowout. So he has he has the ability, if he has a good game, it makes sense to pair him with JSN, Cooper Kupp as kind of the main 2 guys, and kind of going that way. But I think for right now, I'm just kind of skipping over him. In terms of the rest of the team here, I actually have a good amount of interest in Cooper Kupp. He's going to be wide receiver 2. He's running a good amount of routes. It just, in terms of involvement, right? Will he look to him, or will be the JSN show once again? But as I mentioned, I showed on slate, you want to get different or possible routes is going to Cooper Kupp over JSN. Maybe JSN only has 10 to 14 fantasy points, very expensive, and then Cooper Kupp, obviously way cheaper there, $4,000 cheaper. If he puts up 10 to 12 fantasy points, it'd make more sense to go to that route. So I don't mind getting some Cooper Kupp at 7,000. I think it's a fine play. Torrey Holton, wide receiver 3. Obviously, 2 good back-to-back games. It's just one of those things, not heavily involved. 5 targets, 4 targets. Obviously, he had a touchdown in both games, which really helps out his fantasy score. I just think there's better plays in that price range, so I just don't think there's a need to get to him. Unless you're going to Sam Darnold as a captain play, then obviously he's one of those pass catchers you could get to. I think on a slate like tonight, I think the kickers and defense is viable, especially, the Seahawks defense. 2 offensive linemen are possibly out for the Cardinals, as well as their defense is really banged up. So it could be one of those things where Seahawks get up, Cardinals have to throw more, which obviously leads to more chances of interceptions or fumbles, stuff like that. So I do like the kickers a good amount, especially on a slate like tonight where the top 6 to 7 guys, once again, are expensive. And so you're going to need a little bit of salary relief, and the value plays are not the best like they were on Monday Night Football. So that's my thoughts there. In terms of value plays, A.J. Barnard is going to be tight end 1. He's running between kind of 85 to 92% of the snaps right now for the Seahawks. But they will have Elijah Arroyo. They're kind of their tight end that they did spend some draft capital on. He's running between 45 to 50% of the snaps. So they are running some tight end 2 sets. He is involved, $800. He is worth a dart throw if you want to get super, super weird and kind of contrarian. You could look to him. But in terms of the value, I don't love it. They're not really getting involved. They're not really involved in the tight ends a lot. I will mention A.J. Barner. A few times they've used him as kind of that tush-push tight end when they do need to gain that first down. Could it happen in the red zone? I don't know if it will. Obviously, because you have Kenneth Walker, you have Zach Charbonnet. They're perfectly fine with ramming them in there. But it could get weird. If you're looking to get weird, a guy who's running the routes, he's playing a good amount, not heavily involved, but he could get involved in the passing game. He has the ability to do the tush-push. 2,800, I think he'd be my favorite kind of dart throw play for the Seahawks side. For the Cardinals side here, I think Kyler Murray probably stands out as the best and I guess safest captain play just because of the passing upside and the rushing ability and the ease of stacking him with MHJ, Trey Benson, Trey McBride. He just has a good amount of pass catchers you throw him in with. And they do have some cheap ones. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch will be the wide receiver 2 and 3, and they'll run at least 20 routes, if not more. So it's everything kind of points towards him being the safest and probably best captain play for tonight if you want that safe upside. With Zay Jones out, he was the wide receiver 3. Now he's out. Will be Greg Dortch as that wide receiver 3 there. So not huge news on the Arizona side. It's just what to make with Marvin Harrison Jr. Are you in or out? I'd say 99% of people are out. He's still getting some ownership, which I'm surprised about. I think he was like floating around 30% owned in the showdown slate so far for tonight. But yeah, I mean, I think I throw all the negative kind of connotation around him, all the negative news. Like week 3 could have been huge. He dropped obviously that like 50-yard pass in the middle of the field, which he could have ran for a lot more yards. Could have even like ran for like another 50 yards for a touchdown. Like it could have been a massive game there in terms of that. He dropped like a 40-yard touchdown pass at the end of the game as well. So it's like it could have been a massive week 3 for Marvin Harrison Jr. and it wasn't, right? Like it just hasn't worked out so far. But he's a wide receiver run. He's getting the routes, first most routes in the team in terms of routes run. 7.8K for a wide receiver one who does have that big play upside and big play ability, even though he hasn't really flashed it so far in his career. Like, I think it's still really, really worth it, especially on a slate where, like, if no one's going to play him, like, all signs are pointing towards playing him, if that's the case. Obviously, Trey McBride, heavily involved in the game. It's just, like, right, like, can he get in the end zone? He's one of those guys through the first few years in his career, especially with Kyler throwing the ball. They just don't really look to him in the end zone. It makes no sense. But, yeah, I mean, he finally got one in week 3. If he gets in the end zone, he obviously has the ability to smash. Good captain play, safe flex play. Trey Benson, running back 1, was very efficient, with James Conner as running back 1. Now he steps into the running back run role. He looks good at 8.8K for a starting running back. Should see 65 to 70% of the snaps, if not possibly more. 8.8K is definitely too cheap for that price tag. Definitely has the big playability being the captain spot, especially like in a game where right now the Seahawks are favored by 1.5, 43.5 game total, so nothing too crazy there. But if the Seahawks do get up, Trey Benson does have that play, that pass catching ability out of the backfield, could make for a solid captain play. As I mentioned, I do like MHJ at 7.8. Kickers are definitely viable. I don't love the Cardinals defense just because they're really banged up, even though the Seahawks offense is not the best. They're just kind of more so throw to JSN or ground and pound. And then as mentioned, DeMarcado would be running back 2. I don't think there's a need to get to him. 3.8 is cheap, but he's going to be more so probably that scat back. See 30 to maybe 45% of snaps at most. I just don't think there's a need to get to him unless he's just unowned and you're playing multiple lineups. You could throw him in a few. And as I mentioned, Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch will be the wide receiver 2 and 3. They're going to run around 20 routes, if not a little bit more, so they're definitely viable, especially on a slate like tonight. If you're not going to get to MHJ and you're going to play Kyler, I think it makes sense getting to Trey McBride and then at least 1 or 2 of these pass catchers in Wilson and Dortch. In terms of the rest of the team here, that's really it. Elijah Higgins will get a catch or 2 there. They will run him. He's more so that pass catch in tight end. Tip did see a few. I just don't love the price tags on either one. Like, I'd rather pay up for guys who are going to be guaranteed those routes in Dortch or Wilson, or maybe take a shot on a guy like AJ Barner on the Seahawks side. And that's really it, right? Like, as I mentioned, the big news is, like, what are you going to do with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet? And then what are you going to do with Marvin Harrison Jr.? I think that's the key to deciding the slate. Are you going to play Kenneth Walker? Are you going to play Marvin Harrison Jr.? If not, you're going to want to get to Zach Charbonnet. You're going to want to get to Trey McBride and some of those other pass catchers. So right now, I think in terms of core plays, obviously JSN, it makes sense. Everyone's going to play him, but I do like getting different and going to Kenneth Walker, Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, I don't know which one I'll put in my captain spot. It really comes down to ownership, but I think in terms of core plays, you're going to want to get to at least, I'd say, we'll throw in Kyler, JSN, and 1 or both of Trey Benson and Trey McBride, but we'll go with Benson for now. I think that's a good building block. Now it just comes down to, who you want to go with the captain. Why? Is it Kenneth Murray? Is it Kyler Murray? Or excuse me, is it Kenneth Murray? Is it MHJ? Or do you want to go the safer route of go to like a guy like Kyler Murray, JSN, Trey Benson? That's kind of the big key to this showdown slate is those 2 guys, Kenneth Murray or Zach Charbonnet or MHJ. So I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.